The videos in this fourth module will be about how to put everything together. That is, how to build the most effective negotiation sequence. How to start, what to continue with, why, and how to end. In order to help you run the right sequence, I will show you two different tools. The first tool, which I will describe in this video, is rather simple. It builds on the 10 preparation elements we discussed in Module 2. Take a few seconds to remember all of them. You should know them by now. Now, please picture yourself right before the beginning of a real negotiation. You're about to enter the negotiation room. Which of the 10 elements should first come to your mind? Logistics, of course. Make sure you arrive early enough in order to decide where to sit, or to check the equipment, or to put the documentation neatly on the table. Which element should come next? Communication. Carefully select what to say and how to say it in order to create the right first impression on the other side of the table. And the implicit purpose of this opening words is usually to establish the right relationship between the negotiators at the table. And that is the third element. Some small talk will help, or providing explanations for something unpleasant which happened and which previously damaged the trust in your relationship. Once this has been done, the fourth element in this sequence will be organization. Clarify with the other party how long you have, which elements should be discussed, in which order, etc. Now you've set the scene of the negotiation. It is time to enter into the substance. And it would have been a mistake to discuss the problem dimension straight away without taking care of these four elements in the first place. You will now, fifth element, try and understand the deep motivations which brought the negotiators to the table. Then you will try, of course, to imagine the right solutions at the table, number 6, in order to build a creative and fair package deal. To decide which solutions will stay in the package and which solutions should be left aside, you will resort to justifications, number 7. Now, there is a potential deal on the table and 3 missing elements out of the 10. So number 8, well, it's time to compare the solutions on the table with your best solution away from the table. If your plan B is better than the package, there will be no deal. 9th element, it is still time to take into account key stakeholders who were not part in this negotiation but hold a stake in its outcome. Try and anticipate their likely reaction in order to make sure that they will support the smooth implementation of this deal. Last element, but certainly not least, the mandate. Check that this package is in line with the instructions you were given. So you see, the 10 elements come in handy again. They provide you with a logical 10-step approach. However, of course, such a linear approach is a bit too theoretical. I know that. In practice, there will be ebbs and flows in the negotiation. That is why I will introduce in the next video my second tool to help you run an effective negotiation sequence over time. And if you want to know more about this, you may want to read Chapter 3 of our book, The First Move, A Negotiator's Companion. In the meantime, watch my next videos. In order to understand how to best build an effective negotiation sequence, we've analyzed plenty of negotiations and discussed with many seasoned negotiators, trying to understand what had helped them. And something interesting appeared. We realized that in negotiation, there are a number of obvious things which everybody will take care of. For instance, it is obvious that a negotiator should speak to the other in order to try and convince him or her. Hence, the usual temptation to talk and talk and talk. However, we realized that the most effective negotiators, before doing obvious things, would take care of something else, usually more low-key, but actually absolutely essential, such as in my example, listening to the other. Listening so well that they will know, when they would later turn to speaking, which argument to select, how to frame it, and through which loophole they should use it. In a nutshell, instead of doing the obvious while forgetting the essential, the negotiator should treat the essential first before turning to the obvious. And based on this very idea, I'm going to share with you 10 principles which will help you do first things first in any negotiation. Whenever you're tempted to do something which obviously has to be done, this principle will help you focus first on something far more essential. Only then you will turn to the obvious stuff. Ready to discover these 10 principles? As you will see, they will also help recapitulate the contents of the 3 previous modules. Principle number 1. Before anything else, what do you think proves to be the constant preoccupation of truly effective negotiators? Take a few seconds to write down your answers. Now, before I uncover the right answer, let me share with you this little anecdote. Imagine you've worked all week long on a report that you have to present to a potential customer in a meeting next Monday, 9 a.m. It is now Friday, 4 p.m., and you've just emailed your nice report, 100 pages with colorful graphs and pictures. The job is done, well done. The weekend is nearly there. At 4:05, while you were packing to get away, you receive an email from your contact person, and she says, "Oh, nice report. Could you please bring paper copies with you on Monday? There'll be about 20 of us in the room." Okay, that means you need to get done 2,000 color copies plus the binding. Now, in most organizations, there is someone ruling over the empire of heavy-duty copy machines, and they're usually established in some dark basement of the building. It is now 4:10 on this Friday afternoon. You rush downstairs. The guy was packing and about to leave. Scenario 1. You've never met the guy before. The probability is close to 100% that his answer will be, "Well, sorry, but I've turned the machine off, and by the way, for such a quantity, color copies, do you have Form B16 signed by your manager?" Scenario 2. You've met the guy before, had coffee together at some point. The probability is pretty high that his answer will be, "Well, you're really a pain, but I'll do it for you, and you owe me another coffee. As for Form B16, well, never mind, you bring it next Tuesday." What is the only but essential ingredient which changes everything? You know it. Relationship. The essential preoccupation of truly effective negotiators is to establish a relationship before anything else. To put it differently, do not expect to create trust when you need it. It is usually too late. This first principle is very powerful, even more in the negative way. Stanford professor Lee Ross has demonstrated the power of a cognitive bias he called reactive devaluation. People will negatively react to a proposal not because of its inner substance, but because they have a bad relationship with the person who put that proposal on the table. If the very same proposal were put on the table by someone they trust and like, they would be far more likely to accept. Now, I know I've been pretty long on this first principle, because it is the bedrock for all the rest, which you will discover in the next videos. Remember the key idea behind these 10 principles? Do the essential before turning to the obvious task. Now let's turn to the second principle. Negotiation means, obviously, action, doing things, entering into discussions, etc. But what is essential beforehand, however, is preparation, getting ready. And how to get prepared was the focus of Module 2. I hope that you became familiar with these 10 elements. On the people dimension, relationship, mandate, stakeholders. On the problem dimension, motivations, solutions at the table, justifications, and solution away from the table. Last, on the process dimension, organization, communication, and logistics. Once you're prepared, the obvious temptation is to join the negotiation meeting, which means usually meeting with external partners. The essential step before that, though, is to build an internal consensus within your own environment. You are prepared, but is this preparation in line with your close colleagues and partners? Imagine the situation where a well-prepared sales manager sold a vast amount of products without checking in the first place with the production manager if the company was actually able to manufacture such a quantity at this point in time. This principle, internal consensus before external meeting, is very important when you're about to join a meeting as a team, each of you representing a specific department of your organization. It is essential to build an internal alignment and cohesiveness before meeting with the other side at the table. Do we all agree on our objectives and our strategy? How do we share roles? Now, as a bonus, let me also share with you principle number 3.5. Before a multilateral meeting where several parties will negotiate, it is essential to build alliances. Through informal bilateral discussions, try and build a coalition around your approaches so that you're no longer isolated when the multilateral negotiation meeting starts. Now that you're aligned with your colleagues, you're eager to engage into the discussion of the problem. Wrong. Obviously, there is a negotiation because a problem or a series of problems have to be solved. However, if you want to increase your chances to solve the problem, it is essential that you set the right process first. Clarify with the opposite number the rules of the game. How long do we have? How do we structure the agenda? Do we discuss one item at a time, or do we go for a package deal approach? And this fourth principle, process before substance, will help you avoid two scenarios you don't want to be in. The first scenario is nobody thought about the process. Your negotiation is likely to be chaotic, and that will not help you reach your objectives. The second scenario is even worse. You didn't check the process, but they did, and they organized everything in the way they want things to happen. So remember, set the process before engaging into the problem. You will discover more first things first principles in the next video. Welcome back to discover 3 more principles which can help you build the right negotiation sequence. Principle number 5 is something I've mentioned already in this module. It is obvious that the negotiator must speak to the other side of the table in order to convince them. It is essential, however, to listen first to the other side of the table. Why so? Well, not simply to be nice or improve your karma. There are 2 main reasons. First of all, negotiation is structured by information asymmetries. You know things that they don't know, and they know things that you don't know but would like to know. So, in order to reduce these uncertainties or blind spots, take listening seriously in order to grab more information, ask questions, dig deeper. Second reason, listening properly to someone, showing respect and sincere interest will usually be good for the relationship. And that is consistent with principle number 1. As you can see, these 10 principles form a unified and coherent system. Now that you're engaged into the substance of the negotiation, the usual temptation is to focus on one obvious question: who will get what? That is the value distribution side of negotiation. However, it is far more essential to focus first on another question: what is to be shared, and how can we expand it? How can we enlarge the size of the pie or diminish the costs or the risks? And that will be the value creation side of negotiation. The more we manage to create, the more there will be to share. That makes sense, doesn't it? The usual purpose of negotiation is not to capture some meager short-term gain. It is to engage, whenever possible, into a profitable and sustainable partnership. So, remember principle number 6, value creation before value claiming. Principle number 7 is the following. In a negotiation, dealing with a problem most negotiators will look for a solution. That's pretty obvious, isn't it? Problem? Okay, let's look for a solution. But wrong again. Extremely talented negotiators know that if they want to have a chance to identify the right solution, they must look for something else than solutions in the first place. They know that they must look for information with no a priori about what the solution could be. It is only when they've secured enough information about the problem and the deeper motivations behind it that they will have a better chance to identify the right solutions. That principle, number 7, is consistent with 2 of the previous principles: preparation before action. Do your homework in order to get the right information. And listening before speaking. At the table, grab more information through active listening. 6, 7, 8, 3 more principles, which I will introduce in the next video. See you in a minute.